Yeah, I mean, I think definitely the way that, and actually the way that LEED is written, it's written in a way that it describes a commitment to a system, an approach to thinking about interconnectedness. And I think in terms of how we, design professionals work within our communities, understanding what that interconnectedness means beyond that document, neighborhood involvement, the sort of capturing of the public will and the political will, things down to, advising your clients on site selection, and thinking about what that really means, in terms of the remediation of a site, to really understanding. I mean, I think one of the most basic things is understanding sort of physical, climatic, microclimatic, and macroclimatic framework that you work within, and it differs even in our country, from Maine to Texas and Florida. That it varies, and so your approach has to change. There's no one size fits all. And I think LEED is actually trying to struggle with that right now, because right now a lot of sort of the differences in climates, Portland to South Carolina. I mean, there's some certain things don't apply in different areas, and so the adaptability of that document, the LEED document, to different regions, I think is probably a next step.
And you look at the history of architecture until the international style, all architecture was regional, and the attempt by the hero architects of that generation to impose this thing that was going to be able to be built anywhere.
And the savior of technology to be able to kind of create these environments. The machine, exactly.
Right.
Well, what haven't we discussed that you feel is a burning issue related to this that you would want others to hear?
I don't know, Peter. You actually think we haven't discussed everything?
I
think we've been pretty far-ranging here.
I mean, public transportation systems, really thinking about what that really means. I was in Cleveland Friday. They have a bus rapid transit system there that is enviable. And it's an approach that it combines the minimum impact to infrastructure cost approach of a bus system with the sort of sex appeal of a rail system. And I think, thinking about innovations in that regard, I think public transportation and making it, again, a thing that becomes transparent and invisible to the experience. I mean, I grew up in New York City. I took the subway to school. I never thought that it was weird to take the subway to high school. It was just part of how, because you really didn't want to drive. I mean, that is one thing that was actually a negative, to own a car, or not to own a car, but to have to drive a car and negotiate the city. And I think as we become wiser about how we live closer to down. I mean, I see, not that segways are the greatest invention in the world, but I see them zipping around the neighborhood instead of a car, and I think, well, at least. They could be walking, but at least if they're going a distance beyond where they're comfortable walking, they are not, they're decreasing their carbon footprint in that regard. So I think big issue is public transportation, and how that happens in the future. That's my 20-year question. 20-year from now question is how we deal with that regional growth pattern in a really smart way.
I think all of this too, just to deal with life cycle things and what McDonough talks about with cradle to cradle and all of that, I think is another interesting thing. So many of us view it as when it leaves my hand and goes into the garbage, that's it, and they don't understand what's going to happen to that downstream. And I think all of the issues that are coming to the front with sustainability, understand that we're fouling our planet, and when we start getting a lot of other detrimental things to food supply and other things, that we're really going to see that what we have really does have a life beyond when it leaves my eyesight. And so I see that being another factor that we're going to understand that what we do really does have a big footprint that's long lasting.
Absolutely.
And toward that end, just one last thing that I see. I see it in hospitals. I think we see it in the lodging industry and a wide range of other commercial occupancies, is that back to the sense that this is a holistic approach. It's not the burden doesn't simply rest on the designer or the developer to make this an energy or environmentally conscious environment, the occupant is also responsible, and many of these organizations do embrace that cradle-to-cradle philosophy about any number of products. They actually physically place recycling bins where people can see them and use them and things of that nature, and actually sponsor walk or bike to work days, things of that nature, again, to reduce that carbon footprint. So again, to me, it is indeed a holistic approach.
I think just talking about it is educating a lot of people. I know just having dinner with friends, we end up talking about it to some degree.
Yeah, we're all in this together.
And yeah, the visible recycling container could trigger a question from a kid. Why is that there?
Why is that blue?
And then why? And then why? It's the next question in. That it's the number of questions deep into the issue that they want to delve that is critical, because then suddenly they've sort of had a shift in their way of thinking about it at a young age, which is a planted seed.